Situated on the western side of the Amakhala Game Reserve, overlooking a river plain, is the Hlosi Game Lodge. Today we're going to explore this wonderful retreat, offering rich game viewing and luxurious accommodation for the whole family. So a very big thank you to Kevin Bailey, who's the lodge owner, and he's going to be taking us through the Hlosi Game Lodge journey. Thanks for having us.
What a pleasure. Great to have you guys here, great to have Wild Earth here, and great to be sitting here with you, Ralph.
So every lodge has a unique origin story, and I believe that Hlosi was a real passion project for you. Can you take us through that journey?
I'd love to, Ralph. So I think there are two sectors to it. It's our journey as to why we were interested in a safari lodge, and two, why did it become this area that we focused on. The area itself I got to know as a kid, coming on beach holidays to Port Alfred, which was a lot of fun. And then much further down the road is my parents were living in the United Kingdom, and I decided to come back to South Africa for university. And interestingly enough, because I battled with the paperwork, I came late in the term, and there was virtually no transport option between Port Elizabeth and Grahamstown. So I found out after a day in Port Elizabeth the only way I could get to university was by train.
Right.
Which does age me a little bit, and so I got on the overnight train from Port Elizabeth to Grahamstown. And that was really the journey of the love affair with this land. Is the train would go for 20 minutes and stop. But it was the ultimate introduction to the area because that was the perfect way to see this land. So I definitely had a burgeoning affection for the area.
So what challenges did the family face in turning this into a community building project?
I think, like with most challenges that you go through in life, it's that there's no dress rehearsal. So you're always learning on the fly. So you're learning as you go, although we had a little bit of industry experience and we had some safari experience. Is when you take on something like this, you're doing it live and you're learning as you go. So the challenges we needed to get is when we took over the property, it was very small in terms of infrastructure. So it was to find a way to build this up in a commercially viable manner, but still keep the sort of homely atmosphere that we fell in love with when we first visited the property. I got lucky in my choices in that I'm married to our project manager. So she came in, I did the design of the sort of African themed rondavel joining the areas, and she put the project together. So it was very much a learning experience for us together of learning how to build to a budget, not let it get beyond you, taking on what you can manage at the time and can be commercially supported, and over the years keeping that vision of what we hope to get to, but doing it one step at a time.
I like that. an amazing day out in the bush. I would imagine that guests and travelers would look forward to their creature comforts. So can you tell us a little bit about your luxury tents and your suites and what makes them special?
With pleasure. So I think breaking it into two areas is for our sort of couples traveling together, that romantic or safari getaway. We've got two offerings. We've got our more traditional brick-built bungalows, and I think that gives the comfort of being in a solid structure when you're on a game reserve, while still allowing enough of the outside there. So, you know, in the brick-built units, everyone has a game viewing deck. The bath is has an open window. So I think the built units give a little bit more solidity, while still giving that with the thatch, that sort of African theme. My personal favorites are the tents. Why we particularly like tents is we felt that immersed us in the experience a little more. Tents is probably a little bit of a liberal use. They really are units made to look like tents with the thatched roof, but what the canvas sort of walls give you is that immediacy with your environment. So that feeling of being right there in the reserve is very real. You're connected right there. I always love the sound of the jackals in the early evenings as they come. It's quite an airy, and I'm sure being here for some time, you've heard it often, but quite a haunting sound. And then, you know, the night birds coming out and going through. I think the tents really give you that closeness of experience. Within the built and the tent units, we've got the sort of unit that we looked at it and said, well, if we could lift one of our luxury hotel rooms that we run in the cities, but put it in a game lodge, this is how we would do it. So it's got all of the comforts of a hotel room in a city or town, but you're in a game lodge setting. And then we focused on two areas there, as well as we focused on a family experience where the kids get a separate room. I always found that in my travels, that definitely led to a much happier holiday for all of us. And so both the built family units and the tented family units, the kids get their own space, which just gives everybody a bit more time to not to be together, but to enjoy a bit of separateness and privacy as well.
Can you tell us a little bit about the main guest areas?
Absolutely. I think what we've tried to do as a brand in general, but particularly at Hlosi as a game lodge, is make it a real experience, but keep it homely, keep it relaxed. We're not trying to create something here where people feel like they need to dress up just to be in the space. You need to feel like you're at home here. So the lounge areas, the open fires, all are there to sort of recreate that feeling of being at home, but in a really nice home. So comfortable areas where you can just as easily relax with a good book or play some cards, while having your drinks brought to you or your coffee brought to you is really important. And then I think you can't take away the room experience as well. Is the room should reflect that as well. It isn't just a place to sleep, it's a place to relax. So every room has a little lounge area and of course outside areas in the rooms. And then that leads us on to outside areas. Is a lot of a safari experience is being in the outdoors. So weather permitting, and we do have variable weather, there is a seasonal nature to a safari. A winter safari is a little bit more wrap yourself up and get the fires going, which we try create in winter. And then in summer, it's a little bit more about the outdoors. So I think that's where your outdoor areas really come into their own. The waterhole, the boma just above the waterhole is fantastic. And as you well know, is we have a year or two ago, the hippos moved into the waterhole. So it's one of those amazing experiences, the rewards, unexpected rewards you get. Faced with a severe drought for many years, we were worried about the river drying up, and an unexpected plus of that is the hippos relocated to Hlosi's waterhole, which is fantastic. So that is certainly an area to really spend some time in. Right there, you don't often get that close to. And then, yes, with that story is, of course, the hippos moved in and then gave birth to a calf. So to see a family of hippo at that close proximity is quite something. So yeah, I think the outside areas are really important in terms of getting the most out of a game lodge experience.
Experiencing the beauty of the bush is obviously priority and top of the list for a lot of people coming out on safari. Can you tell us a little bit about the activities that you offer at Hlosi?
With pleasure, Ralph. So yeah, you put it well, is that experiencing the beauty of the bush is the primary goal. So the days are generally based around 2 game drives. An early morning game drive, get out there before the heat is up. You've got the best chance to see as much game as possible. So a general day would be an early snack breakfast. Get out there, go on your game drive. We try keep game drives to 2.5 to 3 hours. And definitely find a great place on the reserve somewhere to stop for your morning coffee and rusk and have a little snack. Then we like to bring guests back for a good hearty breakfast. So everything from a buffet to an English breakfast when you're back from game drive. And then have a little bit of time for yourself to reflect, to be in your room, or be in the lodge, or as we've discussed in the summer heat, have a little dip in the pool. And then we'll do a lunch just before the afternoon game drive. Both game drives have their special moments. There's nothing like, for me, the pain of getting up early, being rewarded by being out there in the morning and seeing the morning come together. But I think my particular favorites are always the evening game drives. To be able to go on an evening game drive and then also find your spot for, in my case, a good whiskey or a G&T right there on the reserve. And the rangers are really great at finding a spot where you know that you will have an experience. It's very seldom that you can say in the world, yeah, that whiskey was with a herd of elephant. And so game drives in the evening are special, and then back to the lodge. It's a surprisingly busy day even with that, but there's always a moment to add on. Pamper yourself with a massage, absolutely, you know, in between your game drives, to add to that real feeling on holiday experience. Maybe add something. We've recently broken the drought in the Eastern Cape, so after many years we are getting more and more water in the Bushman's River. When the river gets to a level, we'll run our boat cruises again, which is a great addition. A nice gentle potter down the river, you know, a real quiet experience, particularly good for birding. And then a few add-ons, a horse riding option on the reserve, and a walk on the reserve. So, you know, being able to walk on a big 5-game reserve, quite an experience for those that are a little more adventurous. And then taking the night as well, stargazing at night, and also night drives. It's a whole new world once the sun goes down and going on a night drive, as to what you'll see.
Where do your guests normally eat their meals?
So we have a full dining room experience here. Interestingly enough, the dining room as it is now was the whole lodge when we took over, and the rest of the lodge had to expand around it, which so the dining room has many memories going back a long time, in that it was everything at the beginning. But the dining room is an important area, but I think, as in the rest of the activities, is whenever possible, I think in a game reserve experience, you want to be outside. So it's that ability to be able to adapt to the weather. We are in nature, and you've got to work with whatever nature throws at us, but we've got a great cozy dining area for when you want the warm inside experience, and then we spill out as much as possible. So I think with a South African Game Lodge experience, a good old South African braai is going to be high on the agenda.
Of course.
A barbecue for our international guests, but you know, we would do definitely focus on, whenever possible, a lot of outdoor dining, a lot of by the fireside. In our culture as a hotel group, we get together and tell a lot of fireside stories, and we find that that's our most effective way to communicate as a pride, a group of people. So I think fireside stories, guests sharing their experiences, what they saw that day on the game drives, the sharing the excitement of the day, you kind of relive it with a good drink in your hand next to a fire. And what we aim to do is give good, hearty, traditional sort of South African food while you do all of that.
So we've chatted quite a bit about the cuisine that you offer at Hlosi already. However, can you tell us a little bit about the unique meals that you prepare for your younger guests?
Absolutely. I think one of the elements in my journey, I learned to cook because I really tried to make sure that my kids weren't eating takeaways every single weekend. So I learned to cook. But we understand that kids have their own preferences. And so there's a kid-friendly menu, and one, we'll design a menu with kids in mind, but also we're interactive. We're here to make the parents at home and the kids feel at home, so we definitely will cater towards your kids' preference.
So conservation has a huge role to play in the role of the safari industry. Can you tell us about the 3 pillars that you stand by in a way to enforce this mission?
Great question, Ralph. So conservation obviously has been the lead. Building this reserve as a conservation mission has been the objective. But you can't embark on a conservation initiative without the community. And they go hand in hand. As the conservation project has got better and better, it's provided more employment, more interaction with the community. The Amakhala Foundation has done great work in supporting local community. But even more important than that, as all of the lodges on the reserve have become more commercially successful, that's the other pillar, is you can't drive conservation and help the community without making it a commercial success. Everything's got to pay for itself. So I think that's one of the most rewarding things about being in this business, is watching it become and growing it into a commercial success. And the stronger it has become commercially, the more we've been able to expand, the more employment you're able to offer, the more flows into the conservation side of it, and the more that flows into the conservation side, the better known the reserve gets, the more you are able to broaden the horizons.
What do you think differentiates Hlosi Game Lodge, as well as the Eastern Cape in general, from the different safari destinations in South Africa?
Yeah, great question, Ralph. I think there are a lot of really great safari options in South Africa. What the Eastern Cape offers is accessibility. So it generally forms part of a very well-formed route. In our particular case, as Lion Roar's Hotels and Lodges, we cater to the Cape Town Gateway. Cape Town's my home and one of my favorite places in the world. We add that onto a winelands experience. Again, South Africa's history with winemaking and its expertise that it's built up over many hundreds of years is quite exceptional. So the winelands is an absolute must. You can then go through the garden route, have that beach experience. One of my favorite places in the world is Plettenberg Bay. Spent a lot of time there in my early days in South Africa. So, and then you can tag an Eastern Cape safari all on the same trip without any real difficulty and without losing any time on long flights and travel. Another big advantage of the Eastern Cape is it being malaria-free. Definitely an added advantage with family travel and little ones. And then I think with the Eastern Cape, the private game reserve element to it is we have some spectacular game reserves in South Africa and in Southern Africa in general, but a private game reserve makes sure that in a limited time you will get a great experience. If you can spend 3 nights in the Amakhala, your game viewing experience will be second to none.
Kevin, it's been amazing chatting to you about this wonderful family-orientated lodge. Thank you.
What a pleasure, Ralph. I've enjoyed chatting, and it's been a real pleasure to have you guys and Wild Earth on the Amakhala. It's fantastic that you bring an exposure to what we do here. It's done well, and it's a real privilege to share the journey with you.
So anyone wanting to find out more about the Hlosi Lodge, please head to the website. It would be amazing to meet you exploring the rolling hills of the Amakhala Game Reserve. Till next time on Destination Safari, goodbye for now.